Grinding your games might have actually just made a huge mistake with Path of Exile 2, and I'm going to tell you what I mean exactly and why I think that. But first, a disclaimer. I'm not some wizard that knows the future, so obviously this might actually turn out to be the right move here, but yeah, just keep that in mind going forward. So what exactly am I talking about here? Well, the closed beta date for Path of Exile 2 is June 7th, 2024. Setting aside the fact that June 7th is for the closed beta, and the public release of an open beta could be months later than that. I think this is a huge mistake, giving their competition a fighting chance. On one hand, I'm kinda glad that they aren't choosing to rush the game out prematurely, but I mean, come on. By that time, Diablo 4 will be in like Season 4, likely have the together. Last Epoch will be in the middle of their first couple of seasons following their upcoming 1.0 release. And who knows what other games and new stuff there will be to attract new and dedicated players away. New game releases, new Final Fantasy 14 expansion. I don't know what y'all are playing, but that's not the only mistake with Path of Exile 2. The other major misstep in my opinion is deciding after all this time in development to split the game into its own separate entity. Now I understand why some people might actually like this change, and in some ways it is a good thing, and I have two buts here actually. Firstly, I'm a former RuneScape player, okay? I know exactly what it means to not only split the games, but the player base itself into two factions, and it's not the greatest thing. But number two, a lot of the problems with Path of Exile 1 are things that were caused by the skeleton crew left working on the game. They did a great job, but there just weren't enough of them in my opinion. And the promise that Path of Exile 2 was going to come in and solve all them magically. Now that Path of Exile 2 is its own separate thing, what happens to those solutions? Well, as it turns out, you're not going to get them anymore. You're going to have to deal with the same messed up PoE 1 experience until it slowly dies out, or hope that they magically fix those problems in a scuffed way. But don't worry, it's still going to get new leagues and content, so you can just play twice the Path of Exile now, right? Alternate back and forth between the games again and again and again. Oh, and the new player experience is still going to be for either game, so I'm sure that's not going to complicate anything, right guys? So here are the two most likely outcomes that I think could happen. The first scenario is that Path of Exile 2 releases, a portion of the player base doesn't like the slower paced gameplay, it sticks to PoE 1, portion of the player base doesn't like a small change like with a class or the skills or having dodge rolls in an RPG for some reason, and will stick to PoE 1. A smaller portion of the player base likes the changes and moves to playing PoE 2 exclusively. The most faithful addicts play both like good little children. And finally, 70% of the new players attracted by the hype or being burned out still can't get into either game. At the end of the day, you're going to end up with a confusing situation where you have two games being developed with a 90-10 split in dev teams, a small gain in the overall player base, and a growing rift between the two. Or, the less likely outcome, by some miracle, a majority of the PoE 1 addicts are not burned out by the release of PoE 2, new players get into the game and somehow don't quit from all the information overload, allowing some actual growth. The PoE 1 skeleton crew actually produce some good content and keep it alive for the remaining dedicated fans. And it all goes over smoothly as we ride our unicorns up into the clouds. Yeah, okay, I am a bit biased here, but I just don't see this going very great in the long term. I mean, short term, yeah, more PoE content, poggers, I'm all for it. But why GGG chose to just compete with themselves while they can just continue crushing the competition that they don't even really have right now is beyond me. But thanks for watching this short rant. If you disagree with anything I've said here, I'd love to hear why in the comments below. In the meantime, I'm going back to playing Valorant because D4 Season 1 is triple B, and by that I mean buggy, boring, and bass. And yeah, goodbye.